Alright, so this is a suggestion via a donation. Now then the video is terrifying things said by astronauts. Let's check it out.
There is almost nothing more mysterious than space. We do have some information from telescopes and data, but really no one actually knows what's out there. That is, except the few people who have been there, astronauts. We all know famous things that astronauts have said. For example, when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he said, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But did you know that many astronauts have said some very unsettling things before? These things will change how you see space forever. From reports of snakes in space, to the world's most famous astronaut who said, quote, "They're watching us." Space snakes.
They're watching
In
us.
1994, astronaut Story Musgrave said something very strange. He is a prolific astronaut who's been on 6 flights to outer space. He is not only a NASA astronaut, but also a doctor and mathematician. He is taken very seriously and is one of the most prominent people in the space community. But he said that on 2 of his space flights, he'd encountered what appeared to be space snakes.
How large were they?
He said these snakes were ranging from 6 to 8 feet in length, much larger than a normal terrestrial snake. He said the snake followed him for a fairly substantial amount of time while in space.
I mean, this sounds weird, but we would not be able to verify this. Unless we go up there, if that makes any sense, guys. Like, I mean, like, we would not be able to see this from the ground.
And he even tried to communicate with the snake.
Feels weird.
Some believe this could have been an extreme hallucination, while others say this is evidence that extraterrestrial snakes live in space.
I'm leaning towards hallucination, though, guys.
If it is a hallucination, this is a pretty big coincidence. That's because he saw these snakes on 2 out of his 6 space flights. They're watching us. Everyone knows there are lots of questions about the moon landing. Some believe that it outright did not happen, while others believe that it did happen, but we did not get the full story. But one of the most mysterious things about the moon landing is Neil Armstrong's actual first words when he landed on the moon. Most people think the first thing he said was, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But NASA claims to have lost transmission for roughly 2 minutes beforehand. The transmission was beamed
I bet they did.
to a receiver in Australia, and it was then transmitted to US televisions with a delay. In the lost 2 minutes, Neil Armstrong reportedly said something unsettling to NASA. He said, "These babies were huge, sir, enormous. Oh God. You wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecrafts out here, lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon, watching us." This was not heard by the world as the broadcast was dropped for 2 minutes. And Neil Armstrong never spoke about this ever again. But
So then who said it, then? Bro, what kind of evidence is this that you're giving me, bro? If he's never said it again, then can we confirm or deny that he actually said it in the first place? Or are you just telling me this because it sounds amazing?
But many sources have confirmed that this was what he said when he first landed on the
What sources?
moon. Do you think astronauts know more than they're allowed to tell us?
Yes.
Maybe NASA was hiding something so the
100%.
public did not get freaked out. UFO Formation. This one comes from NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper. He was the last American astronaut to spend time in space alone, and while he was in space alone, he had various very strange and scary experiences. Before he went into space, he was in the Air Force, and in 1951, when he was flying with other pilots, he saw what he called a vast armada of UFOs. He said they were flying in formation at very high altitudes. In 1963, he had his first voyage into space. He was put into a Mercury capsule which would circumnavigate the entire world. But as he was flying over Perth, Australia, he saw a fast-flying green object. This was also picked up by tracking systems in Australia. Mysteriously, the media were told they were not allowed to talk to him about this. Some say it could have been a military experiment they did not want anyone knowing about. While
I'm gonna be honest, this statement here, I think it's plausible based off of what the Pentagon has been putting out lately. Yeah, I think that's not too far off from reality. I think at one time in our like human history, we would have probably laughed at it, but now with the fact that the Pentagon is talking about, you know, UAPs, that's this becomes very tricky. I don't know if it's laughable anymore if the U.S. government is talking about aliens now.
While others said maybe this was a UFO. Knocking. This one comes from the first Chinese astronaut in space, Lang Yuai. One night in space, he said he heard a strange and continuous knocking sound. He said someone or something was knocking on the outside of the spaceship. According to him, it sounded like someone hitting an iron bucket with a hammer. To make things even more creepy, this is not the first time this has happened.
I'm gonna be honest, that sounds like something pressure oriented. Like if, for example, you're in an old house, right, and the old house just makes noise. I feel like that could be something like that. Think about the amount of pressure that's going up there. And it's a Chinese built ship. And I'm not trying to be like offensive or anything, but like sometimes there are issues with build quality. So I don't know, maybe there is just something that just wasn't fastened correctly. I mean, there's no wind or air to blow past things in space, obviously, guys, but I don't know, I feel like that may be something pressure oriented.
Two other astronauts have reported this exact same thing happening while they've been in space. What could be making this constant knocking sound? Maybe there was some kind of life force trying to get into the spaceship. UFO Lights.
Go ahead.
In 2005, NASA astronaut Leroy Chiao was the commander of the International Space Station. And while he was in the International Space Station, he saw some very strange things. He told the Huffington Post he saw some green lights which were in a strange line. He said it kind of looked like an upside-down check mark. Leroy said he saw these lights fly by the International Space Station, and according to him, he found it very strange. Yeah, I would say that's an understatement.
Right.
Some skeptics have said maybe these were far-off fishing lights on Earth. But Leroy does not think this, and I don't see how—
Well, that's that's not even plausible, bro. I'm not sure he's seeing far-off fishing lights on Earth outside of his ship, bro. Think of the overall lumen output that would be required for that. That would almost be like visual, I would think, from the planet, if these were that bright to be seen from out of space. If that makes any sense, guys. But I mean, obviously you can see lights from outside of space. You can see cities all lit up at nighttime, right? But I don't think he could come up with that story if it were a fishing boat with any type of light that would be put on to that. Guys, think about this for a second. As a matter of fact, the amount of lumens that would be required would be blinding. Guys, blinding. It would probably be hot. It would be burning through things. Guys, that doesn't make any sense.
That could be the case either.
That sounds weird, bro.
Music. As the Apollo 10 spaceship passed by the dark side of the moon, all of the astronauts on board heard something strange. They described it as ethereal music. Listening to the transcript of the astronauts talking about this is very unsettling. Astronauts Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan heard the music. The transcript went like this. That music sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? Do you hear that whistling sound? Yes. Boy, that sure is weird music. We're gonna have to find out about that. No one will believe us. That eerie music is really bothering me. You know what? I hear it too. Who's gonna believe this? Nobody. Should we tell other people about it? I don't know. I think we ought to think about it some. Based on transcripts, it seems the Apollo 11 team also heard this same music. But to this day, we still don't know what it is, and it remains one of the biggest mysteries of space.
I can't even...
You've killed me.
I have no idea.
This is one of the most haunting things any astronaut has ever seen.
Look, guys, I can't even come up with a reason for why that doesn't even make any sense. I don't... Okay, you heard some type of whistling. Yeah.
In 1967, Russian cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov was sent into space, but he did not make it back alive. He knew this was going to happen and said his goodbyes to his family for good before he went into space. The rocket was not ready, but the Soviet Union said he had to go into space no matter what. A few moments after he entered space, his spacecraft, the Soyuz 1, malfunctioned. His final words were picked up by a US listening post. He was screaming and crying in anger, but his final words went like this: "The heat in my capsule is rising. You've killed me."
Wow.
Asteroids. This one comes from the astronaut Chris Hadfield. Someone once asked,
bro, that man is so cool, guys. If you guys, make sure you guys look at his Instagram. He's so cool, bro. He's like the coolest man on the planet. Well, he's not really on the. You get what I'm saying here, guys. He's super cool.
What's something that scares you while you're in space? He said sometimes he hears pinging sounds in space, and these are tiny asteroids hitting his spacecraft. He said the solar panels on the outside of his spacecraft are filled with tiny holes. These are from small meteorites striking them. I don't know about you, but that really scares me. But now it's time to make your voice heard. Comment below which was the scariest thing said by an astronaut.
All right, guys, listen. Let's see. What is it? Let me answer the question. I'm going to probably say, I don't know, bro. Probably the last one, about the guy getting kind of like cooked inside of the space shuttle, guys. That's sad. That's just, bad build quality, basically, right? Imagine. But why would the heat be rising, though? Space isn't like known for being just, it's getting closer to the sun. But isn't space cold? Now, bro, I thought space was cold. It shouldn't be hot. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.